Hi everyone, Holly here, and I have yet another amazing book to share with you. Another one that's changed my life, that's really helped me grow. And this one is Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. Now what I really like about this book is the subtitle, not the main title, because the term The New Earth now has a lot of different connotations. Eckhart wrote this book back in 2005, and Dolores Cannon wrote her book, 3 Waves of Volunteers in the New Earth, in 2011. So his New Earth and her New Earth are 2 different things. The subtitle, though, is Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. Now that rings a bell with me, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. And I think that better describes the book. What Eckhart does in this book is really help us understand ego self as opposed to true self. He uses the term awareness, where I might use the term higher self. But he really unpacks the ego for us and helps us understand our humanness from a perspective of awareness, eternal awareness, or from the higher self. So he was an early teacher for me in understanding the separateness of higher self and ego self, which is what I focus on, and his work informed a lot of my work in the Higher Self Integration program. So I'm really pulling on a lot of Eckhart Tolle in that particular program. Highly recommend this book to understand when you're operating from ego and when you're operating from higher self, or in his term, true self or awareness. So let's share a couple of his quotes out of this book. All right, the first one that I want to share is being felt. Oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. Being must be felt. It can't be thought. The ego doesn't know about it because thought is what it consists of. So we have this situation where when you're really resonating with your being, with your state of being, as opposed to all the hamster wheel thoughts in our mind, when we release that thinking process and arrive to a state of being, we know that we're not connected to ego. We know that ego isn't driving our decisions. And I love that particular quote. As you guys might already know, in my book, Finding Purpose, Surprising Wisdom from the Higher Self, the most frequently stated purpose, life purpose, in accordance with what the higher self has told us, is being. To be the only you that's ever been. For me to be the only Holly that's ever been this Holly. And arriving at that state of being can be an important part of awakening to your life's purpose, as Eckhart tells us. So I love that quote. It's all about being versus thinking, and you can know that if you're in the thinking process, you're disconnected with the ego. It's never about denigrating the ego. It's never about ego death, but it is about discerning from what perspective you're taking in any given moment. And you aren't stuck with taking the ego perspective. And Eckhart helps us learn that. Another quote that I enjoyed out of the book was, when you negate time, you negate the ego. So here's another little tidbit of advice about how to get out of this resonance with ego, how to transcend attachment to this ego. And so when you negate time, so he's talking about things like, I'm sure you've had this situation where you're so engrossed in what you're doing. Maybe it's a hobby or a sport or an art, and you get into that zone and time just disappears. Before you know it, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours have just completely gone, and you're like, where did the time go? That's when you know that you were aware, you were resonating with your awareness or higher self, that you weren't attached to ego, because for those few moments, for those few hours, you negated time. And when we become attached to, oh, am I going to be late? Or how much time is this going to take? Or getting my schedule down pat, being very rigorous and rigid with our concepts of time, then we can discern that we are operating from ego self. And so our perspectives of time can be another way of that discernment. All right, one last share from this amazing book. Again, Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. He says, many people who are going through the early stages of the awakening process are no longer certain what their outer purpose is. What drives the world no longer drives them. Seeing the madness of our civilization so clearly, they may feel somewhat alienated from the culture around them. Some people feel that they inhabit a no man's land between two worlds. They're no longer run by the ego, yet the arising awareness has not yet become fully integrated into their lives. Inner and outer purpose have not merged. So you guys know I'm all about finding purpose. And I love this particular quote. So many of my clients are early in the awakening phase, in the awakening part of their life, and they're really waking up to how unfulfilling and artificial and contrived our ordinary society is. And then that can breed a lot of confusion. So they come into their QHHT session to find answers to that, which is a great way to find answers to how do I reconcile this? Human society doesn't seem to have anything for me anymore. And yet I know there's so much more. So how do I navigate between these two dichotomous situations for myself? And so Eckhart informs us about this is really ordinary. This is a natural part of the awakening process. So get ready for it. If you haven't experienced it yet, you will experience it. Other people have already gone through it, and there's lots of amazing teachers and methods that can help you navigate through that challenging situation. So, another fantastic book, highly, highly recommend, Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. Thank you for listening.